And we are live from the shores of Lake Erie, from Dsquare Studios. It is, of course, the commander of the Deep Geek State. That is, of course, I, Dsquare. Good evening, everyone. It is Turkey Day Eve, and I just want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the time, hopefully off of work, with family, maybe even watching football, maybe just playing video games or enjoying some comics. Of course, today is comic book day, so we're actually going to get kind of a 2-for-1 here when I talk about my comic pools a little later on in this video. Had a great week. We saw the conclusion of Absolute Carnage a week ago today, and I'll definitely be talking about that. Venom 20 released today, and that's getting a lot of reaction. Of course, I have Donnie Cates on my Twitter, and a lot of people have commented on what's going on in that. I'll tell you why I'm not picking it up and why I'm not really going to follow when we talk more about Absolute Carnage number 5. Of course, the third episode of The Mandalorian, the Disney Plus show that, of course, I am absolutely over the moon for. That happened, and we're going to get the next episode coming later on this week. Just one moment here. Sorry, had to grab something there. Guess just make sure I'm situated here for you guys. Let me strap in. So, like the title says, problems with the Mandalorian. Well, that I'm not saying it has problems, okay? Because it really kind of doesn't. It has things that I kind of question, but as I think more about it, I start to kind of answer my own questions. So let's get into it here. So the third episode of The Mandalorian, right? He takes the baby Yoda to the Empire, gets the, Beskar steel, takes it back to the Coven where all the other Mandalorians are, takes it to his boss, which is that lady there at the forge that made his pauldron, and get a really, really cool scene where we really learn a lot more about the motivations of the Coven, the fact, that only, one can leave at any time. We see this scene where, like, all these Mandalorians, one even kind of starts a fight with Dine, the Mandalorian that is the hero of the story here, because he was doing business with the Empire, and the Empire are the ones that hunted down all the Mandalorians and took all the Beskar steel. But as they're fighting, we see him kind of come to a standstill. Spoilers, by the way. By the way, spoilers for all the comics I'm talking about today, which is going to be Absolute Carnage number 5, Excalibur number 2, X-Force number 2, that came out today. I've got that as well. And then there's also, I'm missing one other one, Excalibur and Marauders number 2. So spoilers for all that. Anyway, back to the Mandalorian though. So that he has this like standstill fight with this other Mandalorian that's in a lot heavier armor. I like the variation in the Mandalorians. They aren't all cookie cutter. But nonetheless, the boss lady, the one that takes the Beskar steel and forges it, she says, because he's called a coward because he worked with the Empire. But, she's like, hey, the life of the Mandalore, that's not the life of a coward. So, hey, has anyone, have you taken your helmet off? He's like, nope, I never have. Has anyone forcibly taken it off? Nope, never. So that kind of settles that beef right there that, he's not a coward. And really what's most important is that the Beskar steel is back with the Mandalorians and no longer in Imperial hands. And then we get this really cool, like, he gets a massive armor upgrade. So I kind of thought maybe we'd get this done piece by piece. But he has enough Beskar steel here that he's fully decked out in it now. He's got a new breastplate because the one that he got was broken. And so I mentioned in this scene being really cool because all these Mandalorians are gathered around him as he's basically ordering his armor, or he's being told what kind of armor he's going to get. And he mentions, like, yeah, my fight with the monster here, my armor's, my chest plate's lost its integrity. And she says, oh, what kind of monster? Oh, that's going to be your sigil. And he could have just, it shows you what kind of integrity that the Mandalorian character has here, because he could have just like, yep, I beat that monster. But no, he says, nope, there's no honor here because my enemy helped me fight this monster. So it just goes to show you just a lot about the character of Dine, of this Mandalorian, and how he really is going about with honor and integrity. After that, he's all decked out, upgrade, that Beyonce song. That's definitely what I'm thinking about. Upgrade, upgrade. But he looks cool. Everyone's noticing him. He hops in his ship. And this is where this show really shines, where we can see the internal conflict, even though he's wearing a helmet. I'll get more on that a little bit later as I go through some of these critiques here, because I really have some fire to spit. Hey there, Rourke Daniels. Thanks for joining the stream. Yeah, whoop, whoop. How's it going, buddy? So he goes in his ship, and, at this point, he has, made sure, one second here, and he's asked, he almost kind of gets in trouble. He asks what's going to happen to this baby Yoda, when he hands it over to the Imperials. And they're like, hey, that's against the code. You shouldn't be doing that. So we definitely see where he's kind of gained some interest, or maybe even some affinity with the baby Yoda. And then we see it in full swing as, instead of getting into his starship and leaving, we see, again, great acting as he just, he's like he's going to take off, but then he just shuts it off real quick, gets up, and exactly what's going on there. He's going to go get baby Yoda. And spoiler alerts, he does. We see this great scene where he infiltrates the Imperial enclave there, and at one point, he has a baby in hand, and he's like fighting off the Imperials, with one hand. So very, very cool. And it's not like he's this perfect fighter either. He's, he's getting shot, but, he's got new armor, so it's okay. So we just see him getting out of perilous situations time and time again, not the perfect ultimate badass. So great episode. My only question, and I mentioned this earlier, is that, so he breaks this code, right? He breaks this code. He gets into this massive fight with the Bounty Hunters Guild, and the rest of the Mandalorians come to save him. And so at first I'm like, well, why would the Mandalorians support him breaking this code, or at least support it to the point to where they're going to come save him? Why would they do that? He's breaking the bounty hunter code. So I didn't quite understand that. But as I kept thinking about it, I thought, well, wait a minute. What did he do, right? He got a bunch of Beskar steel from the Empire. Then he went back and totally ruined the operation. And the Mandalorians are definitely pissed off at the Empire for this great purge, which obviously is them hunting down all the Mandalorians. So interesting stuff there. Very interesting, an awesome show. I can't wait for the next couple of days to see episode number 4. So let's go ahead and move on to some of this critique here. One second here. I'm going to find it for you here. It's there's an article, and it's on my Twitter, at Dsquare72. You can go on there. I've shared it here. So let me just grab it up here real quick. And we'll get started here. All right. So this article is from, it's on film.com. Okay, film.com. Not sure if you heard of them, but I do definitely want to, or /film.com. So I definitely want to give a proper citation here. The article is written by a gentleman, and I might butcher this name, but I'm telling you, I'm not doing it to make fun of anybody. I want to give this person all the respect that they're due here. So when I do butcher this name, please forgive me. And also forgive my Wi-Fi, apparently. Just checking the comments there. So this article was written on /film.com. It came out Monday. It's written by a gentleman named Siddhant Adlakha. Okay? So let's go through it here. So, all right. The third episode of The Mandalorian moves the plot in a definitive direction, but the show remains frustratingly shackled. Upon turning in his target, the yet unnamed Baby Yoda, the Mandalorian, also unnamed, wrong. Okay, do you read much, brah? Do you Google? He has a name. I've said it. Do some research. Okay, I'm a fellow reviewer myself. And I definitely make sure that when I'm reviewing something, I'm coming from a place of neutrality, doing my research. So misstep number 1 here, okay? Do your research. The Mandalorian does have a name. So the Mandalorian collects his reward, has a change of heart, and eventually makes off with the infant. As one would expect, the episode ends on an interesting cliffhanger wherein the Mandalorian and his young companion jet off without a home base or destination in mind. But en route to this conclusion, Chapter 3, The Sin, offers little by way of internal conflict or internal resolve. Really? I just described the scene to you where he's got this helmet on, but yet you can see the turmoil within him as he's choosing, do I get in my ship and go to the next job, or do I shut it down and go rescue my little buddy? Missed the mark again. If one must accept the narrative decision to keep the Mandalorian mask for reasons of it is the way proclaimed within the fiction, then the onus falls on everything else, from the actor's body language, which he does a great job, to the sound design, which they also do a great job, to replace the most powerful tool in filmmaking, the human face. Without it and without much else to go by, we're left to draw logistical conclusions and intellectualize what the Mandalorian's emotional arc might be. No, it's really clear, but I digress. He has a change of heart. One can assume because he goes from point A, dropping the baby off to the remnants of the Empire, to point B, retrieving the baby, and in between, he looks at a piece of equipment the baby was playing with on his ship. However, nothing in the character's stilted, restrained body language hints at eternal turmoil that might make this decision difficult, and little in the movement of the camera or in the notes of the score feels like the turning of emotional or intellectual wheels. Okay, so we've already established you haven't researched the character. Now I don't even think you're paying attention, okay? So as you're watching The Mandalorian for this review that you're expected to write, what are you doing? Netflix and chill with your significant other? Or wait. This is Disney Plus. I'm sorry. Are you Disney Plus and pounding instead of watching and taking this serious? Is that how you are missing the fact that this actor is absolutely selling this shit with his body language? You're not paying attention, sir. Again, you are Disney Plus and pounding with your significant other while you're supposed to be watching this for your review. That has to be the explanation. I digress. As usual, these aesthetic states are individually alluring. The action, helmed by director Deborah Chow. Note this for later, by the way. The first woman to ever helm Star Wars in live action. Okay? A female. That's going to be important later on when I talk about some other crap. Anyways, the action helmed by director Deborah Chow is tightly wound and staged with clarity, while Cinematographers Greg Fraser and Barry Iodine do a tremendous job balancing the Mandalorian's gray outfit with the muddy surroundings. Now, that's episode 2, so I don't know what you're watching here, but anyway, especially after sunsets. When he attempts to escape the planet which he and the Mandalorians now call home, the tension between leaving and staying is reflected on his very armor. Its muted hues blend in with the backdrop, but the light reflecting on his chest and helmet during his standoffs and shoot-offs with other bounty hunters adds flickers of excitement and possibility. So, okay, great, we agree. It's visually it looks very good. However, that little tension is introduced to the idea of Mando leaving this base doesn't extend to his conflict with other Mandalorians. After another scene where the melting of Beskar steel, which has some unexplained importance to his culture. Bullshit. Bullshit! They tell you in this, they talk about the Great Purge and how this was taken from them. He gets in a fight with another Mandalorian over this. They're making pieces of armor from this steel and talking about giving it to the foundlings. This show has done a great job in trickling the little details about this new Mandalorian culture, okay? Because it's not like the Mandalorian culture that I learned about in the Old Republic. This is obviously a new Mandalorian culture, one where they have to operate in this way so that as to hide their numbers, which I totally get. But nonetheless, to my point, the significance of the Beskar steel has been explained in this episode as well as others. I remember the first scene of the first episode where that guy comes up to him with his knife. It's like, that Beskar steel. So again, you're gotta stop Disney Plus and pounding, buddy. At least when you're watching something and then you're going to review it. Maybe a Disney Plus and pound. And, okay, let me watch this again then so I can do my fucking job. Huh? Okay, I love Star Wars, guys, okay? I love it so much. It's a constant in my life. I used to watch the original trilogy over and over and over again on my grandma's VHS tape, so it's like a safety blanket. So just seeing people that are trying to renew this in a negative light, but obviously haven't put in the right time or thought, it's just, as you could tell, it's really got me fucking pissed. Sorry for the cussing. Okay. So, yes, we know the importance of the Beskar steel to its culture. So after another scene where the melting of Beskar steel is intercut with his childhood flashbacks, our main Mando argues with several other Mandos, one, over the imperial origins of his bounty and the Empire's hands in the driving of the Mandalorians underground. This scene, however, falls victim to all the show's aesthetics problems at once. While slightly bigger, clunkier Mandalorian is differentiated from our protagonist, these masked characters only ever express themselves through broad movements, if they move at all, which they do, plenty. They're flying at one fucking point. None of which are given enough room to feel individualized. There's no opportunity for them to feel complex or nuanced, more than likely a byproduct of their costume design. It's not hard to see their armor as a hindrance, and the score by Ludwig Göransson was tantalizing elsewhere, becomes a booming mess here, scoring the mere idea that this Mandalorian culture ought to some bombastic meaning. It doesn't. Not to the audience anyway. No, to most of the audience it does. To most of the audience, they're getting it. They're paying attention. You are obviously not, sir. By the time the other Mandalorians come around and help out the protagonist out of a tough spot, there's little reason for them to do so other than an implied cultural background. It is the way. They say once more, as if to excuse the absence of second thoughts or doubts or internal strife depicted just months ago. Now, listen, I initially agree with that thought, okay? I initially thought it was strange that, this would override the fact that he has broken the code of this, this bounty hunter guild. But then, again, thinking of the importance of Beskar steel, particularly that they got from the Empire and everything that the Mandalorian just did to kind of screw over the Empire, therein lies our answer why we're doing this. So, took a little thought, but it didn't take long to get there, buddy. Okay? The goodness one might glean from Mandalorian's action is simply revealed when he performs said actions rather than being earned or struggled with. As we see him decide whether to perform them, his childhood flashbacks this week adds no new information, nor is it made to factor in to his Baby Yoda-centric decisions. Not yet. We're not getting gobs and gobs spoon-fed here. We're getting little trickles of information. This isn't Game of Thrones. It's only a half-hour show, which crazily enough is one of the main complaints about the show, which saying that a show is too, like I said, it's a compliment. It's great that the show is only a half hour because it is telling a story in a different way. I know Game of Thrones just used to be, but no, this is telling a story in a much more meta way than just, oh, the words coming out of my mouth, blah, 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 blah. No, this is an action series, and we're just getting so much with so little, and that's impressive. So, anyway, that's that. I'm not going to belabor the point anymore there. I'm just not. Obviously, I think that person is off base. I think they're off base because they obviously haven't done any research and don't even seem to be paying attention to the show that they're fucking reviewing, okay? And that's not right. That's not right at all. You obviously either have some sort of agenda or just not paying attention. Slingfilm.com. I mean, I've never really heard of them before, so maybe this is why. Maybe because the journalism just isn't really that great. So I mentioned, those complaints in that review. I also mentioned the complaint of it being too short of a show, which, as you can tell, I certainly disagree with. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love hours long worth of Mandalorian, but for the sake of storytelling, particularly one where there's not a whole lot of dialogue. I mean, there is dialogue, but it's not, again, this isn't Game of Thrones. This isn't 40 minutes of just straight talking, a little bit of boobs and death here or there. No, this is, action, body language, cinematography, all working together to tell the story that you just may need to think of. The other complaint that I have a very big problem with here is the lack of female characters. Okay? I'm sure you know of the tweet or tweets that I'm referring to here, and I'm not going to go dig them all up or anything like that, but it's bullshit, okay? It's bullshit for you to expect any story to have some sort of quotas. How many white people does it have? How many black people does it have? How many females? How many males? How many children? How many dogs? How many cats? How many frogs? You can't stilt storytelling like that. You cannot do that. And in this case, you're just straight wrong. We're talking about fucking Star Wars here. Okay? So there's a female Mandalorian. She's basically running shit. Okay? And we know through promo information that eventually he's going to have a female companion. There's no saying that the Baby Yoda isn't female. With that said, not every story has to meet your quota of females or males or the right ratio. That's not good storytelling. But again, we're talking about Star Wars here. Who's the main protagonist of the current trilogy? That's right, it's Rey, who's a female. But forget all that. Let's go back to the prequels. Padme is a strong female character, and she shows this both in Episode 1 as well as the Clone Wars, Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Not so much in Episode 3, but again, one of the main characters is a strong female. We get to see her be strong politically as well as her be strong in a fight. Go all the way back to the original trilogy back in 1977, Princess Leia. One of the first strong female characters ever in movies. And she stayed that way throughout the whole trilogies. Star Wars is the wrong fucking universe to claim as misogynist. You're not paying attention. You are showing very little intelligence. If you're claiming that Star Wars is somehow misogynist, right-wing, it's just bullshit. You need to pay more attention. Now, for the gentleman that read the article, for the women that are tweeting this and guys that are tweeting this, I actually think they're achieving what they're looking to achieve, and that is to get attention. And you've certainly got my attention because very rarely do I spit fire or rage in this manner about any sort of article or review. But we are talking about Star Wars here, and as I'm reading these reviews and these tweets, I'm like, these people aren't even, they're not even paying attention. Therefore, they're not being honest, they don't have integrity, and they're not doing their job. You're just not. All right, hey, we're going to cool off here. Rant over there, at least about the Star Wars stuff. I'm just enjoying it so much. I'm so happy that the Mandalorian series is, proving that Star Wars is back and it's not going anywhere. Excited about episode 9 coming out in less than a month at this point, as this is being recorded the night before Thanksgiving. So a lot of stuff to be excited about as a Star Wars fan. Like I said, I know this channel is mostly comics, particularly X-Men, but make no mistake, Star Wars is absolutely my security blanket. So I do not take kindly for people unjustly criticizing it. Now, there are a lot of valid complaints out there, but the ones that I aforementioned here, they're just not going to fly with me. And anything I see about that, I'm going to address here. Okay? And you're going to listen to me because I got the microphone, and you're going to listen to every goddamn thing I have to say. All right, I guess you could always click off, but anyway. Okay, so let's get into my comic pools of this week. Okay? Now, I am X-Men centric here. But last week, we did get Absolute Carnage number 5 there. All right. Been talking about it with my brother on Volsker and Dsquare Talks. Hopefully we can get together and talk about it a little bit more. But just some, real quick critiques here. So this is number 5. It's the conclusion of this huge story arc between Carnage and Venom mostly, but we do get to see Spider-Man. We actually get to see a couple of Spider-Man. So big old conflict there because we've got Carnage who's trying to revive Null, the god of all the symbiotes. And so that's the stakes that this conflict has. But in the end, guys, it turns out that Null's going to be here. Okay? Carnage, although Carnage himself is ultimately defeated in this series, and in this finale, it doesn't matter. What he wanted to do ends up happening. And so that's going to be my critique. I think the series was cool, but I do not like this. The conclusion of the story arc is nothing more than a setup for the next story arc. I understand it's a comic book, guys, and we're not just going to get a happy ending and be done with it. But I definitely enjoy, though, the arcs that at least end in a happy way and everything is resolved. And then, okay, we go on to a next series where the next problem is introduced. We're not introducing the problem at the end of a certain series. So that's my complaints about the Absolute Carnage number 5, the conclusion to the Absolute Carnage crossover series. It was just very, very anticlimactic. A lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool visuals. Don't get me wrong. I think Donny Cates is an excellent writer. I just, the Uncanny X-Men did this. The last volume of Uncanny X-Men, the Uncanny X-Men 1 through 10, where was the Age of the X-Men arc. That conclusion just set up another, nothing. The X-Man won, basically. He ended up warping reality and shit. So I don't know if that's a current trend with other books, but definitely something I've seen with the X-Men and now Donny Cates. Other weekly pulls here, of course, last a week ago, Excalibur number 2. This it's getting on thin ice. I mean, the magic angle is cool, but Jubilee brought her kid on the adventure, and they ended up getting attacked by some mer people, obviously sent to them from the other world by Morgan Le Fay. They ended up fighting them off. They go to where the old Excalibur lighthouse is. Another one gets erected in a magical way, and then they end up going to Otherworld, and Jubilee ends up going and taking her baby. And what's crazy about that is the baby turns into a dragon in the Otherworld. They go to the Otherworld, Captain Britain, Betsy Braddock, teleports them to the Otherworld, and the baby's gone, but then there's this big dragon who's saying the baby's name. The baby does that himself. It's Shogo, and the baby says its own name a lot like Pikachu. So that's how we know this dragon is made from this baby. So crazy stuff. Marauders number 2. This one also is getting on thin ice. I'll tell you my big complaint about this. Of course, Kitty Pryde is the leader of the Marauders, and basically we in this issue she accepts being the Red Queen. So there she is. So my problem is that's very uncharacteristic of Kitty Pryde, or Kate Pryde as she likes to be called now, to join the Hellfire Club. Getting tattoos. I mean, I get the hold fast thing. That's like a Navy thing. So okay, you get tattoos. You're drinking booze, saying I'm the Red Queen, bitch. Just very uncharacteristic of a character that not so long ago was basically headmaster of the Xavier or Jean Grey School for Gifted Youngsters. She was the leader of the X-Men in the X-Men Gold series that, again, we're not that far removed from. So I'm just not understanding this character progression. And this rootin' tootin' tattoo getting alcohol swigging pirate in the Hellfire Club. This from the woman that spent years in a giant bullet hurtled through space. And so the series is on thin ice. I'm not exactly liking the progression of Kitty Pryde, particularly in this last issue. We'll see if the ridiculousness gets toned down at all, but I'm thinking they're going this direction because a lot of younger readers may like it more than me. I don't know. Released today, this is the series here, ladies and gentlemen. X-Force number 2, Quentin Quire, you see there. Obviously in the first X-Force, guys, Professor X was assassinated. Originally, I had stated that, I'm not really worried about this. They can revive people. But it turns out that it's not 100% sure that Xavier really was an integral part. And they have a backup plan, but it's not surefire. So I think they really ought to then stop sending him out for diplomatic shit, because there was a shot in X-Force number 1. He's drinking something. It turns out that in that drink was a little device that they used to track him. Also, what we find out, and that's what's so cool about this series, is it really is the CIA We got to find out, what the hell's going on. So now X-Force is dealing with this assassination and trying to find out, what's going on here. And they do certainly learn a lot about, these people that have invaded them. One of the things they find out, though, is in X-Force #1, you see that Domino was captured, and then the people that parachute down to Krakoa, they have like these strips of white on them. I kind of thought they were like those like sports things that like James Harden wear. They're usually black, whatever. Either way, turns out they're part of Domino's skin, and that's how they that's how they avoided, Black Tom Cassidy's spore detection system by wearing that skin, so they'd be identified as Domino. Okay. Um, Wolverine and Quentin Quire kind of team up ish. I mean, they don't start off, but they kind of end up at the same place because Wolverine's raging at this point, trying to find Domino. So they do actually find her, and yeah, she's like missing half her skin. Still alive, but boy, brutal. Brutal. But